Hey, what's up, expats and travelers alike? This is Josh with Expats Everywhere. Today, I'm bringing you the raw footage. So you're going to see unedited footage from the compilation we put out last week on the coronavirus. We're going to show you the raw footage from China.
As you know, I'm teaching in China now, and I'm actually in a city called Dongguan, which is set in between Guangzhou and Shenzhen, which is I'm about an hour and a half outside of Hong Kong. And I was on vacation in Cambodia, and this coronavirus thing started to spark up. And when I returned, it had started to become a little more well known, at least back home and globally and in China and whatnot. And some of the measures, safety measures, had started to be put in place. So when I flew back, for example, they had asked anyone who had been through Hubei province, they had to go through some quarantine measures, which at that time just meant they were taken off the plane first, and I'm not sure exactly what happened to them. But I was stuck on the plane for about 2.5 hours out on the tarmac. And then after that, things started to get a little bit more widely known, and the second semester had not yet started. And going into it, we received word that we'd be teaching online. And since then, I've been teaching online, and we're going into our 6th week. My immediate location is it's not really like a top destination for someone, for like a teacher, for a foreigner that would want to live and teach abroad, or in China in particular. It wouldn't be a place that they would choose naturally. But for starting a school, an international school, which is where I work now, it's a great location. There's a very large lake that is kind of like a popular getaway for some Chinese. Just because the scenery, there's a road, like a path that goes around the whole thing. You can take your bicycle on there. They rent bicycles, or your scooter or whatnot if you have an electric scooter. But what that kind of means is there isn't this huge influx of people coming in and out that might be carriers of this virus. So things never really got out of hand in Dongguan. Nevertheless, they still implemented all these safety measures. So I live in a big apartment complex. You can't leave or come back without getting your temperature checked. There was some QR check-in security measure that I don't really understand exactly what it was, just because it was completely in Chinese. I actually gave up on it after a while, and the cops came knocking on my door to make sure that I filled it out. And you have to show that every time you come in the gate. And you also have to check in with the cops just to let them know that you are here in this city, that you're not traveling around and whatnot. Everyone's wearing masks, but again, it never really got out of hand. I think at its height, maybe there was 80 or 90 people that were infected in Dongguan, and I believe the city has 8 or 9 million people, so it's almost difficult to measure what kind of a threat it really was. I'm sure there's other viruses and diseases that are more commonplace, that are more profound than, in terms of the infection and the spread, than this coronavirus was, at least in Dongguan. Still, because we were teaching online, because we've been teaching online, a lot of teachers were a lot of the foreign teachers were uncomfortable to be here, so they decided to leave. Some of them, a few went back home, but many of them went to Southeast Asia, Thailand in particular, because the flights were so cheap, like under $100 one way. So they went out there, and they were teaching classes from there. There were some connectivity issues. We were using this conferencing platform to let the kids all partake of the classes and whatnot. But otherwise, it's been going pretty smoothly, and that's just been the business as usual for the past 5 weeks. So the current situation, at least with the limited information that I have, some of the feedback we get from the school, which is always going to be a little bit polished, just to keep fear factors down. Everyone responded to this a little differently. Um, the small number of infections that were in Dongguan are going away rapidly. It seems, at least for the information that's out there, it seems that um, I believe China has things under wraps, and I think it's just a healing process now. There's a very small number of infections that are new each day, but the people recovering is pretty steady, and I just get the sense that things are on the upswing now. I was never really freaked out about it, and I think partially because of where I was located, and also I was one of those people that just said, "Hey, I see people recovering. I know that people are dying, but I also know that there's things that go on every day, every year, um, like the flu, for example." And I hate to, I know a lot of people don't like to poo-poo the whole situation and say, when people are saying, "Oh, it's just like the flu kills 10,000 people and this and that." But to me, I mean, that's really how I looked at it. I said, well, listen, let's just say for some unforeseen reason I contracted, and people are healing. It seemed to me like it was something that could be overcome. I take relatively decent care of myself, so it just never really entered my mind to be freaked out about it. The worst part of everything was being inside all the time. Wake up in the morning, teach classes in the apartment, and you kind of stay in the apartment all the time. It was really boring. It was definitely a stir crazy kind of thing after a while. Still is. Uh, but like I said, there's a lake outside. I would run around the lake, not around the lake, it's 30 kilometers. But I would run a certain clip of the lake, or I would take my bike out on the lake, or scooter or something like that. I could kind of it was like the highlight of my day. I kind of felt like a pet dog, like, oh, this is my time to go for my walk. And I would go out and come back and exercise a little bit here. So it was never something that really freaked me out. The hardest part has just been waiting it out. Now, obviously, that doesn't apply to all of China. China's an enormous country with an enormous population, and this virus thing has affected areas far differently from each other. But in terms of my own world, that's what it is. Um, I don't have to go into all the safety precautions that the international global population community is taking now. So it's tough to travel. I was thinking at one point maybe to shoot over to Korea. I don't think that's an option now, and I wouldn't want to because they're having their own issue there. Anyway, coronavirus. Before you know it, we'll be talking about it like it never happened. Anyway, hope you guys are doing well, and we'll keep in touch. See you later. Peace.
So specifically, you were asking about China and life in these unusual times of COVID. Has it impacted on me? Not a lot, to be honest. We went on leave on the 16th of December, and we were meant to go back to school on the 10th of February. So all of that period, a lot of it was Chinese New Year. So I was traveling and in various places. I came back to China in January, just before all of the world went crazy with COVID. And yeah, I noticed, fortunately, the World Health Organization director put out a press release to this effect that the overreaction around the globe has been completely out of proportion to the actual risk. So let's just put the big thing out. I'm tired of hearing all of the conspiracy theories and the hysteria around this one. Go to primary sources of information like the World Health Organization, listen to medical experts and get your facts, please. Social media has a lot to answer for in this current age of unwarranted hysteria, and that is the words of the director of the World Health Organization. on that serious message back, how's it impacted on me? Terrible, because my gym's still shut. So it's been shut. It was meant to open after Chinese New Year. So that still would have been, I don't know, about a month of closure anyway. And just at the moment, we're still waiting for clearance from the government on when our lives can return to normal. So that just means since the 10th of February, I've been working from home and, still able to do normal things like go to the supermarket and grocery shop, and life continues as normal. It's just all the things that I like to do that are really, really important are shut. So my workplace is currently shut, and my gym is shut, and my coffee shop is shut. Well, I think about 10 days ago, the Starbucks opened back up again, but Luckin Coffee, which is my favourite, they're still shut at the moment. So I'm working on learning social media stuff. I'm just finishing off the last masters. So I've been incredibly busy hitting masters papers, deadlines, and, always my Chinese can do with improvement. I said earlier I speak Chinese, but it's kind of Hulk smash level Chinese. So, I just wish that there wasn't so much hysteria and misinformation outside on this one. And the levels of racism have been really, really disappointing. So I'm so glad that I'm here in China with the Chinese. 加油, Wuhan! 加油!
Hi guys, my name's Stuart. I'm here in Vietnam, Southeast Asia. I'm a PE teacher in South China. I've been there a year already. This was my second year. With the current epidemic that's hitting the world at the moment, I haven't returned. Neither have a lot of my colleagues right now. I left China on January 18th with my girlfriend. We went to Bali. The plan was to stay in Bali for 10 days and then return back to China. As things developed with the coronavirus, things changed. The situation in Wuhan was just increasing, and we couldn't go back. Now, first question people ask is, who's telling you not to go back? My first step is always looking at the FCU, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in the UK. What was their advice? The advice was, do not go back to China. Leave China apart from all essential travel into China. So we decided, right, you know what? If they're saying that, we don't go back. It's now 6 weeks since we left. On the plus side of things, we've been teaching online now for 4 weeks. I've been teaching PE online, so like everything in life, everything's a challenge. We went into this new form of teaching with no practice and no training. That was 4 weeks ago. Our whole PE department are all using this online software called Zoom. Like everything in life, the more you have a go, the more experience you get, the more better you get. Our ideas for teaching PE have become more wide. We've expanded how we're going to do this, as we still don't know a starting date that we can return. The school that I work at is a fantastic school. I had a great first year there. My second year has been exciting as well. It's in the south of China in Guangdong province. But at the moment, the province that we live in, they can't give us, they can't give anyone a starting date. So without having a starting date, a lot of international teachers have decided to stay overseas. Most of them here in Southeast Asia. Now, because we are offering our lessons online, we are delivering a product. The kids are still in education. It's not a problem to be doing this from another area. You don't have to be in China at the moment to do it. We're teaching overseas. I am working on a schedule that hasn't changed. We work on Beijing Central Time. My lessons run exactly as they would if I was back in South China. It's quite nice being here in Southeast Asia, in Vietnam especially, because the time difference works out really well for me. Beijing is ahead 1 hour, so that means it's an earlier rise here, but an earlier finish in the afternoon. So let's say after the first week, we were all going, oh, how is this going to work? What are we going to do? You know, how are we going to teach PE online? 4 weeks into it, we've all, in our own ways, developed different ways to teach PE, to keep the students active. What the parents have said to us is their kids are having so much screen time that they need more activity. So most of my lessons are very active. I'm keeping the kids going, and I'm coming out with dances, yoga, exercises, Simon Says for the little ones. Lots of activities to keep them going. So as I say, this is a completely new situation. These are unprecedented times. We don't know how long this will go on for, and we just take week by week. We started in Bali. We then came to Vietnam. We've been here for 4 weeks. Our visa's up next week. We don't know what the next step is, but until we have a starting date, we don't go back. We get a starting date, we go back. So we just take each week as it comes. We've adapted, we're moving forward, and we're offering something which in these times is really important.